Welcome to the Nexternal Nexus Video Edition. My name is Ty Nunez, and if you're not familiar with Nexternal Solutions, we provide powerful e-commerce shopping cart software for merchants who are selling online. What is the Video Nexus? The Nexus will be a series of videos that will provide useful e-commerce information, tips, and tricks for merchants who are selling online. In this, our first edition of the Nexus, we'll be interviewing Alex Guile, President of Nexternal Solutions, to discuss hosted versus non-hosted or licensed e-commerce systems. Thank you for joining us, Alex.
Thank you, Ty, and thanks to all of you for watching our first video blog.
Now, Alex, I've heard you say you'd rather smell your brother's armpit than use a non-hosted or licensed e-commerce system. Can you explain to the audience what you mean by hosted versus non-hosted e-commerce system?
First off, thanks for the visual there, Ty. Hosted e-commerce systems are those that are managed and maintained by a single company. A non-hosted e-commerce system is one that is purchased or downloaded by the merchant, installed by the merchant, and maintained by the merchant.
Okay. Now, aside from the fact that you run a company that offers hosted e-commerce, why are you so biased against non-hosted systems? I mean, seriously, I've been around your brother. He's a nature freak. I don't even know if he showers. There's no way I would smell his armpit for a year.
Okay, well, first of all, in my opinion, most merchants don't have the expertise in-house to properly install and maintain an application or an e-commerce application so that it's secure, has redundancy, and is being properly backed up. Even if they do, I think a better use of their time would be to focus on the sales and merchandising and marketing aspects of their business.
Now, Alex, I personally have had many clients switch from open source systems to Nexternal. I've had prospective clients on the phone who are frustrated with their open source platform. Most open source e-commerce systems are non-hosted, isn't that correct?
That's correct. Some popular open source e-commerce platforms on the market are OS Commerce, ZenCart, and Magento. A lot of people hear the term open source and equate that to free in their heads and think that that's going to be the best solution for their business. However, a lot of problems can creep up when going that route. In my opinion, it's one thing to use an open source system for a non-mission critical application such as a blog, but it's quite another to use one for an e-commerce system, or any system for that matter, that houses sensitive data.
Now, I've heard a lot of problems when talking to prospective clients who are on open source e-commerce platforms. I'm sure you've heard your share of crazy stories from the rest of the sales staff. What are some of the craziest stories that you've heard from people who are on licensed or non-hosted e-commerce systems?
Well, that's a good question. It really runs the gamut. As one example, we had a lady call in one time. She'd been hosting her store on an open source platform for 2 years, and suddenly the server crashed that her system was hosted on. It turns out she hadn't been properly backing up her data, and she really had lost all of her data. In the brick and mortar world, that'd be equivalent to having your entire store burned down. You pretty much got to start from scratch. I mean, not only did she lose order data, she lost her customer list that she marketed to on a regular basis, and I can rightfully understand why she was in tears. Another problem that can occur when going the open source route as well is a lot of times people don't upgrade their open source platforms for fear of breaking them. So if you're on a system and there's, let's say, a mandatory security upgrade, a lot of people are going to be afraid to install that for fear that if they do, they're going to break their system. And so consequently, you end up with a lot of systems out there that haven't been patched and are vulnerable, and it's really not that difficult for hackers to find those.
Now, you mentioned something earlier about redundancy. Can you explain to the audience what you mean by that?
With most licensed or non-hosted systems, people will purchase the software and they'll install it on a server that's probably a shared hosted environment. They have no idea how many other sites are being hosted on that server. What can tend to happen is if one of those sites gets a lot of traffic, it can bring the rest of the sites to a crawl, because basically that site can eat up a lot of the processing power on the server. Some hosted e-commerce systems even work this way as well. However, a robust hosted system will use a multi-tier structure and load balancing so that if one site's getting a lot of traffic, it's spread out over a network of servers, which can pick up the load and make sure that the other sites aren't affected and are functioning normally.
Now, Alex, I know here at Nexternal we often release new features into the software. I feel like that keeps us on the cutting edge of technology. Now, are we able to do this because our developers are so badass, or is it that the model itself works in our favor?
Well, we do have badass developers, but really the model itself works in that favor. With a hosted e-commerce environment, all of the code can really essentially be housed in one place and can be controlled by one development team. With licensed or non-hosted software, people will have to go to a site, download the software, and install it themselves. A lot of times they don't even know that there's an upgrade available, which is problematic. The other advantage is that with a hosted solution, those updates to the software are being done by a development team, a team of professionals, and it can be done usually without any downtime at all. So there's really an advantage to going the hosted, or what I'd call the software as a service model.
Now, Alex, what role does customer service play in the decision between choosing a non-hosted or licensed e-commerce system versus a hosted e-commerce system?
Well, in my opinion, Ty, it plays a huge role. I know at Nexternal, when we've surveyed our customers, they tend to really like the fact that we have unlimited customer support. They have their own dedicated account executive. A lot of times with licensed or non-hosted systems, your only support may be a user forum. Or if they do have the ability to ask questions of the company, sometimes it's via email only. Or if you actually want to talk to somebody on the phone, you got to pay for that. You got to pay additional money for that support. So, in my opinion, it plays a very important role.
Alex, thanks for taking the time to explain the non-hosted versus the licensed e-commerce system. I know I get calls from many prospective clients who are looking to move away from non-hosted platforms, specifically because of the customer service issue. I know we're both believers in the hosted environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, specifically with e-commerce, using a non-hosted system, in my opinion, is kind of like playing with fire. You don't want to put your business in jeopardy and risk compromising your data. It's better to have it managed and maintained by a group of professionals.
I agree. That'd be a PR disaster and a nightmare, and merchants should be focusing on the sales aspect of their business, not the technology aspect. Thank you again for the information, Alex, and thank all of you for watching the first installment of the Nexternal Nexus video edition. My name is Ty Nunez, and until next time, Nexternal out.